Today we're going to learn how to solve equations using the quadratic formula. So can you put that as a heading for me please, quadratic formula. And the quadratic formula can be used in situations where we cannot factorise, split and solve to solve a quadratic equation. For example, we could solve these equations. We could solve this equation because we could factorise it, we could split it and we could solve it. These both could be solved. But what if we had x squared plus 7x plus 3? There's no common factor, there's no difference of two squares, there's no factors of 3 that make 7. This can't be solved. So what we need to be able to do is we need to find a way to figure out what values of x make this 0. And in order to do that, we use what is called the quadratic formula. Okay, the quadratic formula is given to you on your exam list, your formula list at National 5. It will look something like this. The roots of ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0 are x equals minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. It looks a wee bit daunting, but the actual application and use of it shouldn't be too bad. Okay, so maybe it's a good idea just to write down our formula. So the quadratic formula is x equals minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Importantly, the full thing is over 2a here. Okay, so what I would maybe suggest you do, you want to maybe highlight that, bubble that, make it important. We're going to be using this quite a lot. It's easy marks in the National 5 exam. You just need to know how to use it properly. Okay, we'll look at maybe 2 examples. We'll call this one example 1. Please copy this down. We'll just say solve the following. Correct to 2 decimal places. Okay, let's imagine the question was 5x squared plus 9x plus 2 equals 0. Okay, let's imagine we wanted to solve this quadratic equation. We can't factorise this, we can't take out a common factor, difference of squares are put into 2 brackets. So in this instance we're going to need to use the quadratic formula. Another clue is see if it asks you to solve an equation correct to some decimal places. That's also a clue that you're going to use the quadratic formula. Step 1 is you write down your formula, minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. But where do we get these values of a, b and c from? Where do these come from? So what we're going to do is we're going to write these down at the side. A equals, b equals, c equals. A is the value that multiplies the squared term. A is 5. B is the value that multiplies the term on its own. So b is going to be 9. And c is the constant at the end. So c is going to be plus 2. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take these values and substitute them in. X equals minus b, well b is 9. So that's going to become minus 9 plus or minus the square root of b squared, so that's going to become 9 squared. Take away 4 times a is 5, times c is 2. And that's over 2a, that's become 2 times 5. Okay, so what I've done there is I've substituted the value of c here, the value of b here, and the value of a here. Okay, Actually, I've substituted the value of a here. Apologies. Okay. Remember when we would factorise or solve a quadratic equation normally? We would get to the stage where we would have our double brackets, we would split and solve normally. And hopefully you can see here, I'll just rub this out, that if we have a look at this part here, we've got plus and minus. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to split this here. We're going to split into the plus option and the minus option. But before we do that, we're just going to tidy this up a little bit. Okay, so we're going to have x equals minus 9 plus or minus the square root of 81 minus 40 over 10. That's going to make it x equals minus 9 plus or minus the square root of 41 over 10. Okay, so now we're going to do our plus and minus option. Okay, so we've got plus and we have got minus. Okay, so just like how we would split our brackets, we're going to split here. We're going to have x equals minus 9 plus root 41 over 10. And x equals minus 9 minus root 41 over 10. And what you can do is you can just substitute this into your calculator exactly as you see it. Minus 9 plus root 41 over 10. And when we do that, it should be minus 0.259. And then we'll do the same over here, where we're going to do minus 9 minus root 41 over 10, which is minus 1.540. And the question asks us to round it to 2 decimal places, so that's going to become minus 0.26, and x equals minus 1.54. Okay. So we extract the values of a, b and c from the original equation. We substitute them into our formula. And then we split the brackets at this stage here, or we split the equation at this stage here into the plus option and to the minus option.